I do understand. I understand we were never enough for you. You never loved Mother, and you don't love me. You love him.
Yes, if you couldn't guess by the title, I don't totally blame Via. And if you don't like it, I guess you're human, so you're entitled to your opinion. I mean, I don't care. You're under no obligation to watch this video. I'm glad you at least clicked on it. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about Helluva Boss, or more specifically, Princess Octavia of the Ars Goetia, or Via for short. Via sounds cute. Also, I'm like sick, so sorry if I sound weird. But yeah, Via has caused quite the stir ever since the season 2 finale, Sinsmas. Now, Helluva Boss is a show that's focused on families. Blitz wants IMP to be the family he never had, so he adopted Luna as a near adult rather than as a child or infant because he realized that she needed a family just as much as he did. And then there's Stolas and Via. Throughout the show, the one thing that's mattered to Stolas the most out of anything, outside of Blitz obviously, is Via, his own daughter. She was the only reason he spent so long married to Stella and endured her constant abuse. It's to the point where when he divorces Stella, he covers up every single painting in his house of him, except the ones that feature Via. But during Sinsmas, well, Via forsook her father, and this has rattled the fandom. How could she do such a thing, they argue. However, I myself would argue that this is a long time coming, and I can 100% understand why Via made this choice, as controversial as it is. Do I think Via should have done it? Well, no, but I do understand greatly why she did. So, let's discuss. In Helluva Boss, Stolas is a member of the Ars Goetia, a bunch of bird-themed demons who act as the nobility of hell. And it's my headcanon they were also angels who sided with Lucifer, and then they fell too, so then they mingled or something, and that's why they're immune to most weapons, I don't know. Stolas is a demon prince whose role in the family is to study the skies, the stars, and their prophecies, and go to Earth to raise a legion of followers, on top of also performing various duties in hell, like headlining the Harvest Moon Festival. Does that mean he gets to clean up after the show? Or is he gonna get Pringles to do it? On Stolas' birthday, I'm guessing his 10th birthday, he learned about his place in the family, and that it also came with certain stipulations. Most notably, once he came of age, he would be married off to Stella for the sole purpose of siring a precautionary heir. Their words, not mine. And there's no way he can possibly get out of this.
Son, you are destined to sire a precautionary addition to the Goetia family, so you are now engaged. Congratulations. Isn't she charming?
Wow, he is so good at daddying. He doesn't give good daddy vibes. You know who does? Kinger. Stolas was eventually married off to Stella, and you know my feelings on the matter. Stella and Stolas easily could have done the Laenor and Rhaenyra thing, where they have the baby, they're expected to, and then they just go on having separate lives and living like roommates. Unless they are needed at a special event or something. Which I think Stella sort of did, considering the not divorced party, where she put an ad out in the paper for it without telling Stolas, and told him he did not have to come if he didn't want to.
Stella, what in hell is this?
Ugh, Stolas, you know I like throwing parties. Plus, it's true, so you can come if you want.
But likely because Stella hates Stolas too. I mean, think about it. She can't leave as much as he wants. She takes her aggression out on him, which, while I understand it, yes, this doesn't make it any better. And yes, Stella is 100% abusive, but at the same time, you can also both be a victim and a perpetrator of abuse. But then again, I also do find her hilarious because it's clear that Georgie Lehigh is having the time of her life voicing her.
Hilarious!
Yeah, Stella, hilarious. That's what I just said.
Hilarious!
Stella, I'm not doing this the whole video, I'm sorry. But they did have the precautionary heir in the form of Octavia, who to Stolas was the only good thing to come out of this mess.
The only reason I have endured your constant insults and cruelty was for that girl to have a normal life.
However, before we go any further, we need to discuss something. In Sinsmas, during their argument, Stolas tries to bring up this as a reason why Via should give him the time of day, as in, I basically suffered so you could have a better life, only for her to shut him down by saying,
You have always been the only good thing in my life.
So does that mean you just stayed miserable because of me? Was that some obligation? Is that...
And, okay, I have to argue, I feel like she's kind of right. Because while some people have argued that Stolas and Stella did try to keep their fighting to a minimum, at least around her, prior to Blitz, well, I don't think they kept the precautionary heir thing a secret. Stolas outright brings this up to Stella during their argument in the circus. They were only married to make Via.
You and I were arranged for one reason, to birth a precautionary heir to the Goetia family. Nothing more.
Meanwhile, Angie calls her the heir in Mastermind. Plus, Stella does say she was happy when Via was born because she didn't have to keep having relations with Stolas. And I'd imagine, considering how Stolas is implied to have so many siblings that his father can't even remember his own name, this is pretty routine in the Goetia. Like, for kids to grow up knowing the only reason you were born was so in case I die, I can have a replacement. And honestly, I can kind of see somebody telling her, like, Daddy, why do I have to do your job? Well, your role is to be my precautionary heir, and that is why I'm teaching you about the stars, Via. Plus, considering her interest in astronomy, like we see her wanting to go see the meteor shower or the telescope, I think Stolas is prepping her to one day take over, just because it's what he's meant to do. He's just not doing it like his father did, where he's likely going at a slower pace or trying as hard as he can for her to be normal. So yes, I don't think Octavia is ignorant of her role in the family, just that she likely thought her father loved her outside of that. Like, okay, I'm a precautionary heir, so what? I'm still his daughter. Or more than that, especially considering the song, You Will Be Okay. Plus, okay, I might be also injecting some of my real-life experiences into this video. As somebody who was told this a lot growing up, well, I kind of take offense to it. I think it's one of those toxic positive things that won't age well in a couple of years. Since you saying,
You have always been the only good thing in my life.
Well, to a kid, this is what it sounds like. Oh, okay, it's cool you were miserable for my sake, but you were still miserable for my entire life, and I'm part of the problem. Like, I get what you're saying, but that's what it sounds like to me, like, oh, we must stay together for the baby. Yes, and we need to show said baby that it's better to be miserable and to let a problem fester and become toxic until it explodes, and then take our aggression out on them, rather than admit what we had going for us wasn't healthy and we are grown up enough to admit it. Because, hey, staying together with somebody for the kids, that's not love, that's a hostage situation. Because regardless of what happens between us, you will be loved and you will be okay. Wow, I did not mean for this to be personal. Honestly, like, half of this was like just a joke, I'm sorry. But yes, like I said above, Stolas tried to make the marriage work because he had a terrible childhood. He essentially had no family. He was raised alone with nobody but Mr. Butler for company. His father only visited him for special events like birthdays. That's part of why he romanticized this thing with Blitz being his best friend, even though they're implied to have only gone on that one playdate. And his siblings are nowhere in sight, and or they likely have their own lives to worry about. And I'd argue to some degree, yes, he did succeed in breaking the cycle, considering how ignorant his daughter truly was of everything.
When I was a kid and my parents didn't hate each other. My dad didn't flirt the entire time.
But that doesn't change the fact that Stolas himself was miserable to the point of needing medication. And here comes Blitz, his knight in shining armor, not like you littler ones.
He's busy being a fool.
What kind of fool?
The everything is now on fire kind.
And again, you know my thoughts on the matter. Stella probably would have been pissed regardless of who he slept with. Like, I mean, if it was Visago, she'd probably be like angry but not really like do anything. But because he slept with an imp, aka a peasant, and did it in a super public manner, well, it's a travesty. And all of hell needs to know about her blind fury. And it's making Via miserable because each morning her mother's yelling wakes her up like an alarm clock.
You slept with an imp! It wasn't expected. I didn't have time to go to a motel. A motel? Like a plebeian?
Yeah, Stolas, you plebeian. If you're going to cheat on your wife, at least go to the Four Seasons. We all know you could afford it. As a result, Octavia has been moody lately, and she takes it out on her father.
Good morning.
evening, Octavia. Did you sleep well, my owlet?
Is that a serious question?
Oh, but Kitty, why is Via mad at Stolas? Shouldn't she be angry at her mother? I mean, I guess to some degree she probably is angry at Stella, but she doesn't react to it. Like, it's likely happened so much that she just, like, tunes her out, like we saw with the music during the Harvest Moon Festival. However, for most of this video, I do think we should practice a little empathy. Let's step into Via's shoes. As far as Via knows, her parents don't hate each other, and they don't hate her. Plus, and this will be important throughout most of the video, Octavia does not know the full story, because her parents, as much as they hated each other, did try very, very, very hard to hide their dislike of each other for her sake, and the reason why they really married. Which I do have to respect, especially Stella if she had a hand in this, because it's implied that she did. I mean, come on, Androlphus calls her by her nickname, so I assume to some degree, like, yes. On top of that, Via is also a child. And yes, I know she's 17, but she's still basically a minor, and there's some things you don't tell a child, especially if they're your own. She doesn't know this was a long time coming, or that her parents only got married because they had to, or what. All she knows is that her father did something super unfair to her mother, and her mother is rightfully furious, and it's disrupting her happy home life, because things aren't the way they were anymore. But at the same time, she also doesn't see her mother telling their relatives that Stolas is a dead fish in bed.
I have to do everything. It's embarrassing. I'm glad one egg fell out of me.
Even though some people are like, oh, she like took advantage of him. Well, in the same degree, I feel like she's also being taken advantage of, considering how like she doesn't want to do it as much as he does, but it's kind of like they have a job to do. I don't know, it's like complicated. Or calling him pathetic when she knows he's in earshot.
What a pathetic man!
And even if her and her mother are implied to be distant even before the divorce, well, cheating on your spouse is still pretty bad 98% of the time. Like, sometimes there is a gray area, but most of the time, it's automatically bad. Especially when you have no context, and especially if you're a teenager and you probably always see the world in black and white. You know, like how most teens do, you know, like how Stolas does, you know, like how he probably passed on to his daughter, because like father like daughter. Plus, while I'm not trying to agree with Stella, again, you could have your cake and eat it too. Stolas easily could have slept with Blitz and not caused any problems if he was actually discreet about it, or covered his tracks, like making Blitz go through the back door after they had their little get-together, rather than just letting him sleep in the bed with him and then being like, OMG, when he steals the grimoire and then falls onto Stella. As awesome as that moment was. Obviously, Stolas wants to make it up to Via, and I think the main way he could have done that was to explain what happened, like why he cheated, why Stella's mad at him, why Blitz was there, etc. And he should have made the point that Octavia was fine to feel any way she wanted, even if she hated him, that was valid, because he'll love her all the same. And it is a lot to take in. Instead, he tries to cheer her up, aka a short-term solution on a long-term problem. Because a problem with Stolas as a character, not a writing flaw mind you, since characters are allowed to have flaws, is that he's selfish, or he only thinks in the super narrowest of terms, especially when it comes to romanticizing everything, because that was his coping mechanism growing up. He wants to take Octavia to Lulu Land because, like he says, she used to love going there, but because she's older, all she sees is a rundown death trap. And for all she knows, maybe it was like that when she was 5. She was just too young to, like, notice.
Literally, this park is just a really shameless spin-off of Lucifer's far more popular Lulu World. This place reeks of insecure corporate shame.
And all it reminds her is that, again, her parents used to be happy, they used to take her out on playdates, but then Daddy had to go get his cloaca wet. Like, really? Why would Stella go there? That place is full of poor people. Unless they have VIP escorts, I don't know. Or if he wanted to cheer her up, he could have asked her where she wanted to go. That way they could both have fun, which he does do at the end, but hey, like, it took you this long, dude? Plus, from his perspective, it's all perfectly normal, and honestly, maybe he thinks he's better than his dad. Whenever he got upset and his father didn't want to deal with him, he took him places.
My son doesn't have any friends, you see, and he liked the little clown boy. It's his birthday. He's so sad, and I don't want to deal with him.
Albeit, like in a mirror. At least he's better because he's physically present with his daughter. Need I repeat myself? Need I? She probably doesn't know about that. And on top of that, he also invites IMP to be their security, which Via doesn't like.
Security for a theme park?
We're rich and we're hot. People want our money and our bodies.
Oh, money maybe.
Which, do I need to explain why this is bad? Yes. Okay, well, media literacy is dead anyways. The last thing Stolas should be doing is bringing Octavia around Blitz, especially before Octavia is ready. Heck, I'd argue even by seeing stars she's not ready. Even that I would ask first, like if he were to sit her down and explain the situation, he can be like, do you have any questions? Do you want to meet him? Because to Via, Blitz is the main reason her parents are miserable, the main reason her mother is miserable, the main reason her home life sucks. Why would she want to be within 2 miles of him? Not to mention that Stolas doesn't say anything at all and just expects Octavia to go along with it, like when he tries to have his cake by living out a bodyguard fantasy with Blitz, while also having a fun day with his daughter who outright says she does not want to be there.
You know, it's quite thrilling to see you on the job, Blitzy.
Save it, I'm working.
You both need to get a room.
Again, why would Octavia be cool with this? Why would she be cool with him just flaunting his new, booty ticket around? No wonder she's grumpy. Plus, honestly, it is gross to see her dad, canoodling somebody else.
I swear to you, are so cute when you are serious.
I'm literally gonna be sick.
Now, I get it. If you want security, that's one thing, but it doesn't have to be Blitz. I'm sure they have, hellhounds that, work for them. I mean, we saw them in the circus. Or if he wants IMP, maybe he wants to support small businesses. Well, it's obviously more than Blitz. Millie and Moxie could just go by themselves. They really have no connection, and Stolas could just lie and say, oh yeah, I got, an agency or something. Plus, as we see later, Stolas can easily dispatch people trying to harm him by literally staring at them. So either he just wanted IMP around so he didn't have to worry, which he could have explained to Via, look, I'm sorry dear, I just want to have a fun day, just the 2 of us so we don't have to worry, or he just wanted an excuse to see and flirt with Blitz outside of their deal, which is wrong to both of them because Blitz outright says too he does not like this and he does not want to go there on a date. Not to mention that while they're there, Stolas just acts like Octavia is mute whenever she puts up resistance because he thinks, oh, you're just not having enough fun yet. Like when he takes her to see RoboFizz because she totally used to love him so much.
You used to cry such tears of joy at this show.
I hate that clown.
I'm gonna hit you, Stolas. Did you feel that? That was me hitting you. In the show, Octavia finally snaps and runs away to cry in private. Stolas finds her, and the two do what they should have done at the beginning and finally talk about the situation. And Octavia reveals her main problem. She's afraid that Stolas will run off with Blitz and never come back. Meaning she feels like Stolas will choose another man over her. That he will love another man more than her, and possibly even Stella. And if he were to leave, that would mean that he would be leaving her with Stella, who is already super distant and likely, come on, she's shouting in the kitchen, she doesn't notice her daughter there, she outright says, in the flashback, she's not getting up to go, comfort her, and it's not ugh, it's your turn, she's just no, you go. Meaning, her favorite person in the world would be gone forever, and she would be stuck in a loveless home with nobody to protect her, with somebody who does nothing but scream and shout.
Are you gonna run off with him? And leave me behind? Go away where I can't find you?
Oh, sweetie, no, just because there's no way in hell Blitz would at that point. One, at that point, he doesn't love Stolas like that, and he knows Stolas has a daughter, and as a father himself, I doubt he'd be willing to put a child in that position. Blitz can be a bad person, but even he has his limits. Stolas promises,
No, never. I'd never do that. Never.
Keep this in mind going forward. And keep in mind, this isn't the first time he made such a promise that he will later break. The two are able to make up, but there comes a slew of other stuff, like Stella putting a hit out on her husband, which Via doesn't hear about. At least the headphones are more of an excuse than her father. And then her parents finally get divorced, and we're at Seeing Stars, where we get to what I'm gonna call Strike 2. Strike 1 was Lulu Land, just all of the episode. In a flashback, Stolas tells Octavia the story of a super-duper rare meteor shower, which comes once every 1,000 years. Damn, dude. And he promises...
Daddy, can we go see it someday?
Yes, dear, I promise. When the day comes, nothing will be able to keep me from being there with you.
Guess we're getting a strike too. At present, yeah, you know where this is going. Stolas forgot because he needs to move Stella out of the house.
Dad, this is going to be done before tonight, right?
What? Oh, I hardly think so. Knowing your mother, this will take all weekend.
Even if he does have a whole team of servants who could probably do the job for him if he were to delegate, or just be like, look, can you at least do it in the morning? I need to go out with my daughter tonight. And again, think about it from Octavia's perspective. Your home life has sucked for likely months. Your parents are fighting non-stop, and finally they're divorcing, which divorce I do think is a great thing because it means they're no longer going to be miserable, but no child wants to see their parents divorce because everything will change. And honestly, who actually likes change? But finally, you're gonna have a good day. Just you and your dad. Finally, something to look up to. Look at how happy she was. Like, guys. And her father, as far as she knows, couldn't care less because he just wants to rub in her mother's face that he won. Do I need to repeat myself? Via does not know the full story. Like that Stolas kinda has a right to do that to Stella, considering how often Stella probably did it to him. But, dude, even if you do hate her, that's still her mom. I do think you should have a little decorum. Like, even Stella says over the phone, like, oh, you're turning her against me.
Your mother can't exist somewhere 2 minutes without the entirety of her possessions before she... What? No, I'm not turning her against you. Yes, Stella!
Aww. However, she is able to reconcile with Stolas, this time because of Luna, since Luna explains that Stolas does mean well, he just got a little distracted.
He couldn't be bothered to keep his promise, and now he can't be bothered to come and get me. He'd rather spend his time just screaming at my mum. Why does he hate her more than he loves me?
Aww. Albeit, yes, this is another problem with Via. She doesn't have a huge support network. When you go through something traumatic, it does help to have people around who can provide support, or who you can bounce ideas off of, or just vent to. Yet, we never see or hear from any of Octavia's friends, or maybe cousins for that matter. None of her peers, which maybe it's because Octavia is a bit of an introvert. It's just, I feel like Luna was perhaps the first time in a long time, if not ever, that she was allowed to tell somebody outside of her family what was going on and how she was feeling. Which, yes, I do think that's a further reason she cut off Stolas. During Sinsmas, she had nobody around but her mother and Andrelphus for a month, aka people who won't listen to her and likely won't let her see the rest of her family, which might include cousins who would be willing to listen. And when you don't really have a support network, well, you tend to bottle up and let ideas fester. Like, my dad left me here. My dad left me here. My dad left me here! Even though he didn't have a choice or that Stella made it worse. But finally, we get to strike 3. The third broken promise and the nail in the coffin for why Octavia cut off her father. In Mastermind, Stella tells Andy about Stolas' deal with Blitz. Andrelphus engineers a court case to make it seem like Blitz wanted to kill Stolas. That way, they can either kill Blitz and then spite Stolas, or just have Stolas depower to take everything he has. But hey, either way they're gonna win. Blitz is about to be executed when suddenly, here comes Stolas to save the day, which is awesome sauce, don't get me wrong, I love the song.
Oh my Lucifer, what are they doing?
But you need to remember a few things. 1, the entire court case wasn't broadcast, only the execution was broadcast. 2, Octavia doesn't know the full extent of their relationship, or that her uncle is lying just to spite her father. 3, she doesn't like Blitz to begin with, since he did little to endear himself to her or try to be her friend. And honestly, even if like the homewrecker, never mind. Or perhaps she does know they broke up, so to her, it's even crazier that Stolas is willing to defend him, or even put his heart on the line for him, or even put his life on the line for him. And finally, Stolas went to this trial fully expecting to die. To die for an imp, for the lowest of creatures. To die for the chew toy he sleeps with. To die for the chew toy that ruined a family. To die for the chew toy that wanted him dead, as far as Via knew. Which, yes, this is super sudden, but from Via's point of view, there were so many other things he could have done to keep his life. Heck, this is even coming from me. He could have said that Striker tried to kill him because of Stella. He could have said that he got Ozzy to give him a crystal, so legally, Blitz was pardoned, so now he can go to the human world unencumbered. He could have said literally anything besides, I let this imp go to the service to kill humans and use my book because I want to do piggish things with him. A book he legally isn't allowed to use because I'm the bad guy. But because he was put on the spot and he likely didn't see the full court case, he just used Hell's racism to his advantage. But yes, he was fully expecting to die, to not come back. He just rushed forward. He broke his promise in the most permanent and public of ways because to Via, he chose that chew toy over his family. And the fact that Via exists and that she's basically going to be an orphan if he dies, that doesn't come up until like after the sentence is carried out. When he could have been like, please spare me, Satan, I have a daughter. Like, yeah, he does say,
but what about my daughter? She'll be safe and sound with her mother, the wholesome parent.
But considering how Stella hugged her, likely to shield her from the outcome and to help manipulate her against Stolas, she probably didn't see or hear any of that. And considering how the next episode, like Stella outright calls him a deadbeat, I feel like she also fed Octavia like a really false version. But yeah, the point is, to Octavia, the fact that he was willing to die for Blitz made her feel like an afterthought, like, I will die for this imp. Also, I hope my daughter is safe, gay bro. But with Stolas depowered for a century, this means the role of precautionary heir comes into play. Octavia has now inherited all of his possessions, his legions, and his titles, and his duties. But she's also 17, which means she can't take on any of his actual responsibilities. So it'll fall to Andy until then, while custody of her will fall to Stella, meaning that for at least the next year, the two will be raising her.
Considering the heir isn't yet of age, I'd be happy to volunteer. I'm basically everything he is, but not a deviant.
Weirdly, this kind of reminds me of a what if Queen Victoria inherited the throne while she was still a teenager. See, Queen Victoria spent her childhood raised in this emotionally abusive prison called the Kensington System, since her mother's private secretary, Sir John Conroy, wanted to rule England through her and tried to make Victoria weak and dependent on her mother, especially by emotionally abusing her, be it that she had to hold hands while walking down the stairs even until she was 18, or she couldn't be alone, or that she had to share a room with her mother until she was queen, because if she inherited before she was 18, then her mother would be regent and Sir John Conroy could rule through her, and then he could also make it seem like she was a foolish kid who didn't know what she was doing and he can rule like decades in advance. But by a stroke of miracle, her uncle survived until she was 18 and there was no need for a regency, which makes me wonder if Octavia turning 18 will be a plot point, because I can see that being like a episode. Like, what would Andy do to try and retain his power? Would he force her into a marriage like her mother? And kind of like Sir John, ironically, if he did anything besides treat Octavia like a pet, I think he'd have a good chance of it. But yes, with Stola's gone, Stella and Andy have begun treating her again like a pet, and rubbing it in her face that they got revenge and Stolas sucks. And they also prevent her from talking to Stolas under the guise of trying to help her.
Sorry, sweetie. No talking to that deadbeat.
Which, yes, I know a lot of people hate this scene, but think about it. This also hurt Via for many reasons. Ironically, if she just picked up the phone, or she was allowed to, they probably could have made up or worked something out. Like, look at how happy she was to see he called, even if she was still upset at him. But Kitty, she is in the room. She knows what Stella is doing. Yes, she knows that her mother is actively preventing her from calling her father and openly gossiping about it. But so what? She, like, took away her phone? Oh no. What's the big whoop? I mean, Blitz broke into their house once a month just to bone him. To Via, if there's a will, there's a way. Especially if you're a kid who has an absent parent. But as far as she knows, why would he want to do that? Because he now has to live amongst the peasants for 100 years, he basically got what he wanted. He got a happy fantasy, he gets to be with that imp for 100 years, eating green ring pops, and he doesn't have to worry about his daughter, and Stella, and also Andrelphus. Janis. And while he does that, he abandoned her to a literally cold, loveless household. Home already did not feel like home, and now it never will. And considering how Stella took away her phone, I'd imagine she'd be isolated for a good month. Like, I don't think this was like a one and done thing, because imagine, like, the second Stella turns her back or gives that phone back, she's definitely calling or texting Stolas. So yes, Octavia is alone for a month by herself with her thoughts, only hearing her mother and uncle yelling just to ruminate on how her father broke his promise a big time in a permanent way he can't take back. And this isn't something like he said he'd go to her gymnastics meet and he never did because there was traffic. This has major consequences because she has no support system, because she obviously can't talk to Luna anymore. Thanks a lot, Dad. She now resents her father and the choice he made. But while she's wallowing in his closet, she finds something. A stash of Stolas' happy pills. And there's so many, which if I had to wonder, I don't think it was like he had so many refills. I just think it was something like he just had refills and Stella was not actively giving it to him to be a jerk. However, because the bottle says happy pills and doesn't say what they're for, Octavia probably thinks they literally make you happy. Like, oh, I'm so miserable. Okay, now I'm better.
And you needed these! Was this my fault that you needed these?
No, never.
Okay, let's talk about this. I myself have some experience in this department. I take sertraline once a day to help manage my PMDD. But despite what the title says, no, antidepressants are not happy pills. That's a huge oversimplification. I myself call them crazy pills because they keep me from going crazy. Antidepressants don't make you happy. They just put you in the right state of mind so you can let happiness in. Like, you don't even notice the change at first. Plus, it might suck, but they don't automatically work. Just stick it out though, trust me. But considering all she just learned, it's easy for her to jump to conclusions and assume like, okay, this is going to like make him happy. Still, we know that she does love her father, but all of this has convinced her that she just makes him miserable. This is why he had to go. This is why he wanted Blitz.
He explained.
I can't. You lied to me once and you'll do it again. Have a great life with him, Dad.
No!
So maybe she isn't cutting him off because he's a bad guy. Maybe it's a plethora of issues. Issues that were a long time coming, like him prioritizing his fantasies over real life, him not properly communicating, him being selfish, him not quote-unquote trying harder, which is a thing a lot of kids go through when divorce happens or a parent leaves them. Like, if you loved me, you would have tried harder to see me. You would have worked it out with my other parent. You would have, like, jumped through the window. Anything. And it all led to her sadly abandoning him, likely thinking, this is best for both of us. I won't make you miserable, and you get to go be happy, and I get to grow, but I'll be good for it. But yeah, obviously, I don't think this is the end of their relationship. Like Blitz says, she just needs time. And hey, maybe the fact Octavia is almost 18 will come into play. Like, will Andrelfish try harder to hold on to his power for another century because Octavia clearly isn't going by the script? Will she have, like, her birthday party and then Stolas comes by, or what's gonna happen? Maybe she'll learn that Blitz isn't a bad guy either, or maybe they'll finally tell her the full story in a way she can understand. But yeah, that's how I choose to defend Octavia. She's not a villain, guys. Like, you guys act like she's freaking like, ugh. She's a fragile child from a broken home lashing out due to a massive comedy of errors. I know a lot of people hate Octavia right now. Heck, I even heard Vivian Madrano hates writing for her the most. I have an interesting story about Vivian, like, right after this video. But I think it comes down to a combo of the show treating Octavia like a plot device whenever they want to make Stolas seem more human, meaning we don't really get to see her outside of her literal role as Stolas' heir, so we never really get to know her as a person, and people just not understanding her actions or that they were a long time coming. Because I do like Stolas, but even I will admit, yes, he is quite selfish, and I feel like he needed to lose his daughter. He needed the ultimate form of karma, and the next time he sees Octavia, he has to learn to be more selfless, i.e. don't put her on a pedestal like he was. Anyhow, bye! Wait, Judy, what about the story? Okay, story time. So, 2024 was a year with a lot of ups and downs for me, and honestly, I'm not really comfortable talking about the downs since there were a lot of them. But my favorite thing this year, learning that Vivian frickin' Madrano watches my videos. I'm not even kidding. Okay, so to celebrate my gap year ending, I traveled to LA and I went to Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, and Universal. Knott's I always wanted to go to. Disneyland, well, I remember seeing that VisiPop Bob went with the crew to celebrate Has-Been Hotel premiering, and I thought, that's awesome. I've always wanted to go there. Now I really have to. And then I flew to Sacramento the Friday before I had to go back to school for Sac Anime. Sacramento is probably one of my least favorite places I've ever visited, but I did get to meet a lot of amazing people, like Reviewed to Death. Go watch his videos. He's an awesome guy, and we have collaborated in the past. But at Sac Anime, I met Vivian Madrano, and I asked her to sign an autograph, and I put my name down as Kitty Monk. And when she read my name, her face lit up, and she ran up and hugged me. Like, I never got a hug from a celebrity before, guys. It felt so good, and not in a weird way. She explained to me that she watches my Helluverse videos, especially my Has-Been Hotel ones, which surprised me since I don't really talk about the Helluverse that much because it probably gets the least amount of views out of all of my, shows. So I did what I always do when I get excited. I screamed, and then I massively apologized, and I word vomited, and then I gave her the Kitty Monk pen I give to all my viewers, and then we took a selfie together. This, and getting recognized by Georgie Lehigh and Paige O'Hara, pretty much made my year. People always ask me when I feel like I made it as a content creator, and I have a lot of whens. Like when I got to collaborate with Shady Durags because he was the reason I started writing the scripts that eventually became Kitty Monk. Or when I first got spotted at a convention, and honestly, one of those people I'm still good friends with to this day. Or when I finally got a video to pass the Dagmar threshold because it showed me this wasn't some weird hobby. Or when I finally told the kids in my graduate cohort that I was a content creator, and a girl who I thought did not like me up until then was happy and proclaimed me a celebrity. Or when some of the people on the round table followed me on social media because they really helped me get through high school. But getting a hug from one of my all-time favorite celebrities, one of my biggest inspirations, somebody who made a show that helped got me through rather difficult points in the last couple of years and helped to foster a community that's allowed me to meet so many amazing people and finally gave me the confidence to be me, that's when I feel like I made it. So Vivian, if you're watching, thank you so much. And thank you for putting my donut question on your Instagram. Thank you, that was so awesome. I'm sorry if I went all crazy, I'm sorry. Okay, now for reals, bye!